I am Stephen Daniel with Insurance Office of America. I am an employee benefits advisor and consultant. I work with one of my favorite clients in the whole wide world is Kristina at Link Technologies. We've worked together for some time now, and the purpose of this meeting is just to talk through why did we go in the direction that we did. And so Christina will share in just a few moments why they decided to go on a little bit more creative journey into the healthcare marketplace. Um, Christina, just tell us a little bit about Link Technologies. What do you do? How many employees do you have? Um, where are your employees located? That kind of thing.
All right. Hi, everyone. Link Technologies is an IT consulting firm. So we're essentially a high-end IT staffing firm. We place IT professionals all over the United States. We are mostly based in Nevada, but we do have consultants in about 30 different states. So we have a very unique situation that way. We have about anywhere between 90 and 120 employees for the most part. So we are considered a large employer. However, most of our employees aren't long-term employees because we are a staffing firm. So we rarely have more than 40 people on our insurance plan. So it's a very unique situation. We have to have multiple states offered, but we don't have a lot of people on it. And it's kind of a revolving door because it's a staffing firm. So we hire between about 250 and 400 people a year, depending on what kind of projects we have. So it's just a lot of different obstacles we kind of have to work with when going with insurance.
So, and y'all even have to have some obligations in relation to government contract type work, right? There's some.
Yes. Yeah, we do have some federal government clients, and we have to have specific kinds of benefits and pay certain amounts and make certain things like that, for our contracts with them.
So, I mean, you had a traditional plan with a traditional carrier for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, $500, $1,500 dual plan options is kind of what you've traditionally done in the past. What happened that you decided to look at some different options?
Well, we just kept getting our prices increased every single year. And even though, Stephen, you were so wise as to get all of our data, they were making plenty of money on us. They were still constantly raising our rates. And especially with like COVID and different things, we had to get very competitive, and we cannot pass on those kinds of increases to our clients. And we certainly didn't want to pass it on to our employees either, because times are harder. Everyone needs money, right? Everything's expensive. So Stephen helped us get creative and to find this new plan that helped keep our prices low, and they have not been increased since we started it, and they have stayed the same, but keep the amount of benefit that we have the same, because our owner uses our benefits. She doesn't want to have bad insurance. She wants to have a great insurance plan that she can use and that all of her employees can use as well and be happy with.
And Debbie herself, the owner, and also Christina's mom,
Yes.
I will just tell you, she is a hard charger. Um, and every year, she requires me to figure it out, and find the best options. And so Christina and her mom are very aggressive in that in that respect, to say the least. And which I love. I love the fact, and she does use the plan. It is important to her to have a good benefit plan.
Mm-hmm.
So you were paying. I think when we looked at it, and if I may share this, it was like 3 years ago. The premium was like 350,000.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who don't know, Nevada requires, if you ask the carrier for aggregate claims, what do I mean by that? That's just claims, the total amount of money spent on claims. They don't give a lot more information than that, but we asked, and they were paying $350,000 for just under 40 employees, around that number. And when we got the claim, Nevada Department of Insurance claim aggregate report, it showed like $89,000 was spent in claims. What was the increase though they are asking for that year? They're still asking for a 5% increase.
Makes no sense.
And so, I mean, imagine a business model, Christina, where you made that kind of profit and yet you kept going back to your customer base. How do you feel like they would take that if you went and asked them for 5, 8, 9, 10% every year? How do you think that would fly?
They would decline and go to our competitor. That's how that would go for sure. It's definitely not an option we have.
So ultimately, you're going to end up eating that, right? I mean, you're going to have to take that increase in the shorts essentially. And
Yes,
so that's
rare that we have a contract where we can work increases like that into it. Most of our contracts, even if they're on for 5 to 10 years, we have to consider everything in it, all their costs, including raises. And we don't have an option of being like, oh, we're paying this guy more money or his benefits cost went up. We now get to charge you more. It just is what it is.
so essentially we had to figure out a way to keep your plans competitive so you could continue to retain and attract great talent, right? It's a pretty classic problem. And
Exactly.
and you wanted a plan that wasn't going to continue to eat into your margins. Y'all are not that high a margin business. You have quite a bit of competition. Would you agree that that's not something that
Correct.
there's a lot of
Yeah,
room there? Besides the
correct.
fact Debbie would kill me. So we didn't have any options. We had to find a better way. And so essentially, what we did, y'all, is we took a look at raising the deductible to a qualified high deductible plan. We went up to $6,000, which created some real difference between the $500 and $1,500 plan options they were offering. But we were still able to offer a $500 and $1,500 deductible plan. Is that right, Christina?
That's right. Mhm.
So it then becomes a two-card system at that point in time. For those of you have heard of a health reimbursement arrangement, it falls under the Section 105H rules of the HRA. It's called a medical expense reimbursement plan. And so the way I would like to describe it is it becomes a two-card system. You're going to show them the underlying carrier card, and then you're going to have a second card to help give you back those benefits because you now have a $6,000 deductible with the carrier, but we wanted the employees to have the same benefit. Tell us a little bit about primary care. What is the primary care program that we put in place for you, and how does that work for you and your employees?
Oh yes. So you have put in, I can't remember what it's called right now, of course, for the life of me, but we have this great primary care thing in place where there's an app on our phone. Stephen, do you know the name of it? I'm so sorry. Is it Care Chat? Am I saying that correctly?
Yep, Care Chat. That's
I
exactly
did it
right.
right.
Good job.
Okay. I wasn't sure. But we all have the ability to see a primary care physician directly from our phone very quickly. It's very nice, at no cost to us. You don't even pay a copay essentially. Like it's just we can go on there, say we're put in what kind of issues you want to discuss. They can usually get us an appointment time either that day or the next day, depending on what time it is, and you have a full virtual doctor appointment. And I believe they treat way more stuff than like a standard virtual care physician is what Stephen has explained to us. And we have a lot of employees that utilize it. I've used it a few times myself as well, especially when my kids are sick. So it is a great little program that we offer, and it helps keep our um, all of our insurance costs down, all of the claims down. Sorry, that's what I was trying to call it.
Yeah, because essentially you now are in a position where you're paying claims, like you're seeing the claims come in under that medical expense reimbursement plan. So tell us a little bit about how that works. I mean, was that every couple of weeks y'all see whatever claims are going to come in?
About every 2 weeks, I get an email from IIS that gives me a list of, here's how the claims that we're about to pay out. Are you good for these to go? I say yes, and that they pay out our claims about every 2 weeks. I think if it's a slower month, they might do it just once a month. I've noticed it, but for the most part, now that we've been in the plan this long, it's pretty regularly every 2 weeks or so. I get an email from them, even if it's just one claim that they have to pay out. Here's the claim. Here's how much it is. Are you good to pay it out? It's very easy.
So y'all, I mean, the first year, Christina, I think we saved like $80,000. So even after administrative costs, even after claims costs, um, when we calculated everything, the savings and going from a $500 and $1,500 deductible. Essentially, not everybody's using that. So you have, when you pop it up to 6,000 and you start paying those claims yourself, you begin to understand it's like, well, about 7% are going to max out the out of pocket.
Mhm.
And so you find that about 20 to 30% aren't using it at all. So those are just pure savings. And then you've got about 50%, 60% of the population at any given time that are about medium users. And so we can pretty much figure out what that claims usage is going to be. You pay those claims, and then, like I said, the first year is like 80,000. So in the second year, um, I- we'll answer that question. Just we have a question that came in, and I'll run that by Christine in a moment. But essentially, what the primary care doctor allows us to do, because that's a subscription-based primary care, we're paying them a fixed amount, and that allows the employees to see them as often as they want to. There's no maximum. They can handle about 1,500 conditions. And so that takes those claims off the table every time an employee uses that plan. So that's part of how we've been able to contain costs. One of the questions that came in, thank you for asking, Tom, was, do you like your doctor? Tell us a little bit about how that experience is.
I did. I really liked the doctor. I have not, I personally haven't used it in at least 8 months. I want to be honest about that. But when I did use it, I used it about 4 different times in a 2 month period. And I very much liked him. I thought he had a good personality. We had a good rapport. He was very helpful. One time he could not help me and he was very honest about it and told me what I needed to do. I felt like I was getting good advice. So I definitely really enjoyed the experience. I know for a fact one of our other employees that's actually talked to me about it has also had nothing but great experiences with his doctor. I do think he might have a different one. I'm not sure. But he has used it several times. I want to say maybe even monthly. I think it's his main form of healthcare, to be honest, and he has nothing but good things to say about it.
Yeah, we had, for those that are listening in relation, I'm sure you want to know, this group, under 40 lives, there's been in the last year, there was about 80 visits on that particular platform. So we do get some reporting in relation to that. One of the questions that Tom was asking was in comparison to brick and mortar. I don't know that we've had a lot of conversation with the employees to ask them, well, would you have rather have played or had a brick and mortar? They may, but that's about 50 more dollars a month
Yeah.
to have a brick and mortar.
Mhm.
And to date, I haven't heard anybody complain about the virtual platform, but maybe you have. Tell us about that if you have.
I have not, and my only experience with it is my experience with having brick and mortar is that it takes a lot longer to get an appointment usually. So the fact that we get appointments so quickly, I think is very helpful. It's almost like having urgent care, only better because they can treat a lot more conditions, but you can get that instantaneous care. Whereas in my experience, brick and mortar sometimes takes a couple days to get in. You have to, you have to wait once you're there. On the phone, it's so much easier because you just log on and it's your appointment time and that's it. There's no sitting in a waiting room, no being around other sick people, which is kind of how I personally feel about it, especially when I have my kids, my young baby and stuff. So that's been our experience, but no one's complained. I will say that. But
So just so you know, the virtual care primary care does cover children at no additional charge for that are under 18. And so that is, Christina has, what are the ages of your kids? Adorable
six,
kids that they are.
6 and 1.
Okay, 6 and 1. So she can get um, help for her kids. And again, because it's her doctor, you're getting primary care service, not virtual urgent care, which is really what telemedicine is essentially, which is she has that as well through their
Mhm.
underlying carrier. But in addition to that, we provide good, solid primary care. And again, it helps control the overall claim spend. And so in the second year, we're in our third year now. So in the second
Mhm.
year, y'all were able to actually lower payroll deductions, correct?
Yes, we were. We were able to contribute more and lower what people are paying for their insurance, but keep the benefits rich and exactly the same as they were, because we had saved so much money. We found, it just made more sense to save our employees more money.
So I think that's pretty good news to offer at
Mm.
our benefits education meetings. My good friend Carl Schusler trained me, who's on the call today, to say benefits education, not open enrollment, because essentially that's what we do now. We want to educate the members about their benefits, and it's an incredibly different experience when you're able to come in and say, "Hey, instead of this year, everything's going up. Your out of pocket's going up. Your payroll deductions are going up."
Yeah.
Instead, we actually lowered it. In the third year, we actually improved benefits a little bit,
Mhm.
in providing some co-pays for imaging and things of that nature. So again, I feel like overall we've been able to generate a lower cost trend for the company,
Mhm.
lower cost trend for the employees, better access to care. And so you have a plan that helps your employees retain and attract. However, it's not all, you know, roses. Have been a little bit of challenge along the way, right? So maybe give everybody a little bit of the opposite perspective a little bit, would you, Kristina? I mean, what are some things that initially were
Yeah,
challenging? Some of those things you've
of
worked
course.
through.
I would say the biggest challenge with this plan is the fact that it is a two-card system. And it's not the plan administrators themselves, but it is all the different billing departments at every single doctor's office. It doesn't quite understand the system every time. And if you, as the um, employee, don't understand your plan, you might pay a bill that you maybe shouldn't pay if you're feeling pressured by them or something, if they haven't run your insurance incorrectly. So my issue is that sometimes the billing departments don't understand the two-card system. If you don't understand your benefits, my own husband has done this where he goes in for something, say you owe me $1,500, and he just pays them, and then we have to go through the process of getting reimbursed, which we do, but it is just a much longer process than just processing it correctly. So because of that, billing departments don't always process the claims correctly, and you have a little bit of an issue. But as long as you know your benefits, you can get that fixed very easily. Now that my husband's educated, he knows not to pay those things when he goes into doctor's offices anymore. He knows to talk to them about his plan. But
Y'all have had some exciting conversations about that, have you not,
we sure
Kristina?
have. It's been super
So Christina's a finance person, and so these things, again, I think it's just fair to state that, for employees that are maybe, they only half listen to the benefits education meetings, it's 6 months later before they need it. And so sometimes, there is some challenges there, but we're able to fix it. We're able to
yes.
get them reimbursed. If the member, for whatever reason, has to come up out of pocket for whatever reason, our plan still makes them whole. And we can do that pretty quickly,
Mhm.
depending upon the type of carrier that we're working with these types of plans. It runs smoother than others. But essentially, when we're looking at putting a plan together, what I think is worth taking away is there are plans out there that are what we would call alternative funding, partially self-funded arrangements, and we can do a lot of this claims work all in one combined third-party administrator. But the takeaway here is we're able to use a traditional carrier with a traditional network, and in using the medical expense reimbursement platform in combination with that carrier, we're able to give a lot of the same kind of benefits that you would get in a partially self-funded arrangement. And for some companies, some organizations, and Kristina, with your organization, it's been a little more challenging to think about going into partially self-funded in a traditional way. So using this as a hybrid gives you the opportunity to do some of the things that we would only be able to do if you were in that partially self-funded arrangement.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so are there any other thoughts as we kind of wrap up today? Are there any other thoughts that you would want to share with folks out there? I mean, should people do this? I mean, what do you think?
I definitely think, especially if you're in a similar situation like us, where you're technically a small employer in our opinion, but considered a large employer in the eyes of everyone else, essentially, I think it's definitely something to look worth look. Oh my goodness, worth looking into. It has done, I have nothing but good things to say about it. We've saved a lot of money and we still all get the same amount of care. My husband's had a back surgery. I've had a baby on this plan and I did not pay any more than I did with my first one or anything different, essentially. So I think it's a really good alternative if you guys are looking to save money, especially if your current carrier is trying to gouge you with rate increases that are crazy.
Well, that's exactly right. So you've heard it from Kristina with Link Technologies. Highly competitive world, in her business. There's a lot of competitors out there, so she needs to keep her overall expense and a top two or three expense on their P&L in control and still offer competitive benefits. So I think we've done that. Kristina, thank you for being willing to share with us. If there's